Director Matthew Vaughn spoke out at a panel at New York Comic Con, and boy, did he have some tea to spill around X-Men. We're going to get into that right now on the Sundowners Club. In the X-Men universe, going way back to X-Men The Last Stand, which was the movie that really sort of turned me off of X-Men. I was lured back in when they rebooted it and came out with First Class, but I remember The Last Stand being not good at all. And I remember Brett Ratner, who was famous for Rush Hour, directing The Last Stand, but I didn't know that Matthew Vaughn basically had the offer, and he's speaking at New York Comic Con and talked about what happened and why he dropped out. So to my resident X-Men expert, before I get into what Matthew Vaughn said, what do you remember about the original X-Men series and The Last Stand? You know, we had the first two movies directed by Bryan Singer, and then they brought in
Well, I thought
Brett Ratner.
the first one I thought was decent for its time. It doesn't hold up really well because the CGI is awful. The second one I thought was amazing. I'd say it's in the top three for sure. And The Last Stand was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember enjoying the first one and then really enjoying the second one, hating the third one, The Last Stand, and then thinking I'm not even interested in the reboot. And then I actually was talked into seeing First Class, directed by Matthew Vaughn. And it was just a great cast.
It was. Yeah, Michael Fassbender and
fantastic.
James McAvoy were incredible, I thought.
Why Fassbender hasn't been brought into other IPs
I don't know.
is just foolish because he's a great actor.
I'm hoping they recast him as Magneto. Honestly.
But Matthew Vaughn spilled some tea at Comic-Con, and we're going to get into, according to Deadline, here's what Matthew Vaughn said. So he said, quote, "One of the main reasons I quit X-Men 3, and this is a true story, Hollywood is really political and odd," he said during the New York City Comic-Con via Screen Rant. "I went to an executive's office and I saw an X-Men 3 script. It was a lot fatter. I asked, what is this draft? They were like, don't worry about it." Matthew Vaughn continues, "So I grabbed it and opened the first page, and it said, Africa, kids dying from no water, and Storm creates a thunderstorm to save all these children. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. I said, what is this? They said, this is the Halle Berry script because she hasn't signed on yet. This is what she wants it to be. And once she signs on, we'll throw it in the bin." He says, "I thought if you're going to do that to an Oscar-winning actress who plays Storm, I quit. And I thought I'm mincemeat." He would drop out of directing the X-Men film and did some other projects, but then he was brought back to do First Class and did a really good job of rebooting the franchise at that time. But first of all, I'd never heard this before. I don't think anybody had heard this. Doesn't surprise me that this happens in Hollywood, but what do you think about, does anything about that surprise you, like with the way things work? And
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just going back to that movie. I mean, it ended up being about the Dark Phoenix saga, which is supposed to be one
Halle
of the
Berry
most...
had a good role in the movie from what I remember, but
She did.
But man, that's just it doesn't surprise me, but the reason why I think this is really cool that he's mentioning this now, one, I'd be interested to know who the executive is and what are they in charge of today. But second, when you see famed IPs and they're garbage on streaming or in the movie theater, and you wonder what went wrong, these types of things are what goes wrong. When you have someone who is in an executive position that's in charge of casting or in charge of greenlighting something or anything having to do with a project, and they have total disrespect for an actress that has busted her ass to be something in Hollywood, which Halle Berry has done, and she was pretty popular as Storm. But
think about how long ago this was. I feel like there's different issues now.
Different, but this is the kind of stuff that could happen, because think about what Matthew Vaughn is saying. He's sitting in a room with somebody who doesn't have any respect for the story, and no respect for the actors. And if you're a director, you're Matthew Vaughn, how are you going to handle an actress that goes, "Hey, where's my Africa scene?" And he goes, "Oh, we threw that in the bin." Now Matthew Vaughn, if he takes the job, has to handle the actor, which actors are not easy to deal with to begin with. But this is how things go sideways. So to me, I thought this was an interesting comment. Now, part of it is that they still can't talk about projects because of the actors' strike, which was they were thinking it was going to be resolved a week ago, but the talks fell apart in the last hour. So, very interesting stuff. Also, it's timely because we covered recently in our Deadpool 3 video that Halle Berry showed up with the Storm haircut. So we could see her show back up in the Deadpool 3 film where we think he's going to destroy the MCU as we know it, and that's going to allow the reboot of the X-Men. Is that the consensus that that's what Deadpool's going to do?
Yeah, I mean, they're all in. Like, Marvel's been all in on the multiverse stuff.
Which I hate, by the way. Just tell a story.
I hate it, too. I mean, there's no consequence in anything that happens.
It's a cheap out for writers that don't have anything else original to do.
But I mean, the X-Men story in the movies is already all over the place. I mean, you've got the different Wolverine timelines.
You know what I would like to see?
Days of Future Past.
Take one or two characters. If you want to introduce them in other movies, that's great, like they're doing Wolverine in Deadpool 3. Well, it's not really introducing; it's bringing back Hugh Jackman. But make it like Iron Man, the first Iron Man. Focus on a character and tell that story. Build that character and build that arc. And if you want to have Magneto and Professor X in the first movie, and it's really about those two, and you slowly bring some other characters, I want to see a focus on character development. And I don't care if it's Avengers or X-Men. If you have 30 characters in the movie,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So there's got to be some focus.
Yeah.
And so I think, we know who the usual suspects are. It's got to be Wolverine. It's got to be Magneto.
But I mean, you have the issue of, they're bringing Hugh Jackman back, and it looks like Halle Berry may make an appearance. But I mean, they're going to have to introduce actors that can play these roles for the next, 10 to 20 years.
No doubt they're going to bring in younger actresses. And there's some great actresses that can play Storm.
But someone like Michael Fassbender, though, could play Magneto because Magneto's old. He ends up being like comics, he's like 90. So, I mean, and he does things to keep himself looking young. But, I mean, you could have Michael Fassbender play that role for the next 20 years. With Wolverine and Storm, I mean, those actors they'd be in their 70s by then. So
yeah, they're on their way out. So,
so I don't know. I'm interested to see who they introduce, who will play the roles, and who they'll get to come back and actually stay in those roles.
We have a bona fide superstar that's going to be in there, and it's going to be Taylor Swift playing Dazzler.
Yeah, you think
and
so?
I know you're excited for that. So have no fear. She just did 128 million at the box office with her Eras movie. So she's ready to go. So you've got a bona fide star. So X-Men is in good hands because we're going to have Dazzler.
Well, that will bring the Swifties. Still go see X-Men.
Hey, you can't question the star power of Taylor Swift. So, I just thought it was interesting. Wanted to cover that. You don't see comments like this every day. And at the New York Comic Con, he definitely spilled some tea. A little bit of respect for Matthew Vaughn for coming out with it, dropping some truth bombs. We like to cover all things X-Men. The next thing up for X-Men is going to be X-Men 97. We don't know, and that's the animated series that's relaunch. We don't know when Deadpool is going to come out because they really had just started working on Deadpool 3, and then the writer's strike shut it down. So I don't think we're going to get Deadpool 3 in 2024. I think it's going to be 2025. I mean, if they don't have some major updates on it.
There's going to be a huge push for X-Men content next year. And
no
beyond.
doubt.
I think that'll be their main focus. They've got X-Men 97. They've got Deadpool 3. They got a Wolverine video game coming out, a big budget game from Insomniac. So, I mean, they've got a lot of big things with that franchise, and hopefully they get them right. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Well, hopefully this executive, if they're still around working in Hollywood, their name hasn't been leaked out, so hopefully that person is not involved with anything having to do with Marvel. It wouldn't shock me if they were working for Disney with all the bad decisions Disney's made.
But I mean, do you want anyone who's working for Marvel now to be in charge?
No.
I mean,
that's
the problem.
I want them to clean house. I want them,
because this
including Feige.
This story was years ago. This is when Fox ran it. So I mean,
but it's symptomatic of what happens in Hollywood and how things go bad.
People running it now are even worse. So that's the issue. But
so hey, maybe this person is retired. They're not around anymore. We'll try to have faith. We'll be here to cover all things X-Men, and we appreciate it. Let us know what you think. What do you think about some of the characters being relaunched, younger actors taking over some of these famous roles in the X-Men universe? And hit that like button, hit the notifications bell, and most importantly, hit subscribe so that we can continue to grow our channel. And TCB.